Stay in formation! Advance!
The alien queen mistook my words for a proposal. Now I'm her future husband. Marcus Chen stepped off the transport ship and immediately regretted every decision that brought him to this moment. The planet Vextara stretched before him in shades of purple and gold, beautiful and utterly alien. He was tired, jet-lagged, or rather, space-lagged, and completely unprepared for what was about to happen. Chen, his assistant Sophie, whispered beside him. The Vextara take language very seriously. Be careful with your words. Marcus nodded, adjusting his diplomatic uniform. He had studied the basics of Vextara culture during the 3-month journey, but there was only so much one could learn about an insectoid species that had been spacefaring for 10,000 years. Earth was the new kid on the galactic block, and this trade negotiation was crucial for humanity's future. The royal palace loomed ahead, a massive structure that seemed to grow from the ground itself, all organic curves and crystalline spires. Guards flanked the entrance, their chitinous armor gleaming in the double suns. They were tall, at least 7 feet, with 4 arms and compound eyes that reflected light like jewels. Marcus swallowed hard and walked forward. The throne room was even more impressive than he had imagined. Bioluminescent patterns covered the walls, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. Hundreds of Vextara nobles filled the chamber, their antennae twitching as the human delegation entered. At the far end, on a throne of living crystal, sat Queen Zaratha. She was magnificent and terrifying in equal measure. Her carapace was deep blue-black, etched with golden patterns that marked her royal status. Her compound eyes were larger than the others, reflecting intelligence and power. 4 arms rested gracefully on the throne's armrests, and a crown of what looked like living light floated above her head. Marcus approached and bowed as he had been taught. Your Majesty, I bring greetings from Earth and the human people. The Queen's translator device activated, converting her clicking musical speech into English. Welcome, Marcus Chen of Earth. You have traveled far. Tell us, what do humans seek from the Vextara Empire? This was it. The moment he had prepared for. Marcus had rehearsed his speech 100 times, but exhaustion and nervousness made him reach for something more poetic. He wanted to impress her, to show that humans were sophisticated despite being newcomers to the galactic community. Your Majesty, Marcus said, his voice carrying through the silent throne room. Humanity seeks an eternal bond of mutual prosperity and devotion between our peoples. We wish to stand beside you, to grow together, to share in both triumph and challenge as one unified partnership. He thought it sounded diplomatic, professional, maybe even inspiring. The reaction was immediate and completely unexpected. The entire court erupted. Vextara nobles began chittering excitedly, their antennae waving wildly. The guards straightened to attention. Several courtiers actually fainted, their bodies going limp as attendants rushed to help them. Marcus looked at Sophie in confusion. She had gone pale, her eyes wide with horror as she frantically scrolled through her datapad. Queen Zaratha rose from her throne. Her compound eyes seemed to glow brighter, and when she spoke, her voice carried a warmth that her translator couldn't quite hide. Marcus Chen of Earth, she said, and the entire room fell silent. Your words honor me beyond measure. I accept your proposal. We shall be joined in marriage according to the ancient traditions. Marcus felt his brain short-circuit. I'm sorry, what? The queen descended from her throne, moving with surprising grace. She approached Marcus, and he forced himself not to step back. When she stood before him, she extended one of her 4 hands. You have spoken the words of eternal bonding, she explained gently. In our culture, when one addresses an unmated queen directly and speaks of eternal devotion, mutual prosperity, and unified partnership, it is a marriage proposal. A very beautiful one, I must say. Your eloquence touched my heart. Your Majesty, I think there's been a misunderstanding. I was speaking diplomatically about our planets, not, is it your custom to be shy? The queen asked, and there was something almost playful in her tone. How charming. Do not worry, Marcus Chen. I will be patient with you as you adjust to your new role. Sophie finally reached Marcus's side, her datapad clutched like a lifeline. Your Majesty, perhaps we could clarify the bonding ceremony will take place in 1 month. The Queen announced to the court. Prepare the sacred chambers. Alert all the noble houses. The Queen of Vextara will finally take a mate, and he is a human. This is a historic day. The court erupted again in celebration. Music began to play from somewhere. A strange, beautiful sound that made Marcus's teeth ache. Marcus stood frozen as the reality crashed over him. He had accidentally proposed marriage to an alien queen, an actual queen of an empire that controlled 50 star systems. And apparently, in Vextara culture, there was no such thing as taking it back. Mr. Chen, Sophie whispered urgently, we need to contact Earth immediately. This is a code-red diplomatic situation. Marcus watched as Queen Zaretha returned to her throne, her movements elegant and clearly pleased. She looked at him with those massive compound eyes, and he could have sworn she was smiling. He had 1 month to figure out how to escape an alien marriage without starting an interstellar war. His first day as a diplomat, and he had already achieved the impossible. He had made the worst mistake in human history. The emergency call to Earth had not gone well. Marcus sat in his assigned quarters, staring at the ceiling while his supervisor's angry voice still echoed in his mind. You proposed to who? Director Williams had shouted through the video screen. Chen, you were supposed to negotiate a simple trade agreement, not marry their queen. Marcus had tried to explain the misunderstanding, but the damage was done. The legal team had spent 6 hours analyzing Vextara law and came back with terrible news. Breaking a royal engagement was considered an act of war. The words Marcus had spoken were binding, absolute, and irreversible according to their ancient customs. Just try not to make it worse, Williams had said finally, rubbing his temples. We'll figure something out, maybe. A knock on the door interrupted Marcus's thoughts. He opened it to find a Vextara courtier, smaller than the guards but elegantly dressed in silver robes. Marcus Chen, the Queen requests your presence for the first courtship lesson, the courtier said in perfect English. It is mandatory. Of course it is. The courtship education took place in a beautiful garden filled with plants that hummed softly. Queen Zaretha waited beside a fountain that flowed upward instead of down, defying gravity in a way that made Marcus's head hurt. Good morning, Marcus, she said, and her translator gave her voice a gentle tone. Please, sit. We have much to discuss. Marcus sat on a bench that adjusted itself to his human shape. The queen settled gracefully across from him, folding her 4 hands in her lap. I understand this is unusual for you, Zaretha began. Human courtship is different from ours. I wish to learn about your people, and I hope you will learn about mine. Marcus studied her face, trying to read emotions in features so alien to his own. Your Majesty, I need you to understand. Please, call me Zaretha when we are alone, she interrupted. We are to be married formality seems unnecessary. Zaretha, Marcus said carefully. I didn't mean to propose. In human culture, those words meant something different. The queen's antennae drooped slightly. I know, she said quietly. My advisors explained after the ceremony. They said humans use such words loosely, without the weight we give them. Quote, Marcus felt a stab of guilt. I'm sorry. I never meant to mislead you. Yet in my culture, the words were spoken, Zaretha said. They cannot be unspoken. Our law is absolute on this matter. She paused, her compound eyes reflecting the garden's light. But I confess something to you, Marcus Chen. I am glad for the misunderstanding. What do you mean? Zaretha stood and walked to the upward-flowing fountain, trailing one hand through the water. In your years, nearly 60, most queens never marry. It is considered a political weakness to have a mate who might influence decisions. I had accepted that I would rule alone until my death, surrounded by advisors and courtiers but never truly known by anyone. Marcus heard something in her voice he hadn't expected. Loneliness. Then you arrived, she continued, and spoke words that, even if accidental, were the most beautiful thing anyone has ever said to me. Eternal devotion. Mutual prosperity. Unified partnership. She turned to face him. Do you know how rare it is for a queen to hear such things? Marcus stood and approached her slowly. On Earth, we believe marriage should be a choice, something both people want, not a legal obligation. Choice. Zaritha repeated the word as if tasting it. Tell me about human marriages. How do they work? For the next hour, Marcus explained human courtship, dating, love, and marriage. Zaritha listened with intense focus, asking questions that revealed a sharp, curious mind. She laughed, a clicking, musical sound, when Marcus described his friend's disastrous first date. She seemed fascinated by the concept of falling in love, rather than having relationships arranged by law or politics. Your people sound very brave, she said finally. To choose partners based on emotion rather than logic, it must lead to many mistakes. Sometimes, Marcus admitted, but also to great happiness. Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden commotion. Alarms blared through the garden, and guards rushed in, surrounding them both. One guard shouted something in the Vextara language. What's happening? Marcus asked. Zaritha's entire body had gone rigid. Assassination attempt. On you. Everything happened fast. A figure in black armor burst through the garden wall, weapon raised. Marcus froze, but Zaritha moved like lightning. All four of her arms struck in a coordinated pattern, disarming the attacker in seconds. More guards arrived and dragged the assassin away. Zaritha turned to Marcus, checking him for injuries. Are you hurt? No, I'm fine. You saved me. Marcus stared at her in shock. Why would someone try to kill me? There is a faction, Zaritha explained, her voice tight with anger, that opposes our union. They believe humans are too primitive, that marrying you weakens my position. They would rather see you dead than see our peoples united. This wasn't just about an embarrassing misunderstanding anymore. People wanted him dead because of it. I must increase your security, Zaritha said, but Marcus noticed her hands were shaking slightly. I cannot let them harm you.
Why? Marcus asked.
If I died, you'd be free of this accidental engagement. Zaritha looked at him with those massive compound eyes, and Marcus finally understood what he saw there. Genuine care. Because accidental or not, you are mine to protect now, she said softly. And perhaps I do not wish to be free of it. That evening, as Marcus returned to his quarters under heavy guard, he realized something troubling. He was starting to see past the alien exterior. Past the chitinous armor and compound eyes and forearms, he was starting to see Zaritha as a person, brilliant, lonely, burdened by duty, and unexpectedly kind, and that made everything so much more complicated. Sophie found him staring out the window at the purple sky. You okay, boss? I think I'm in trouble, Sophie, Marcus said quietly. Because of the assassins? No, Marcus said. Because I'm starting to understand her. And that makes it harder to want to leave. Sophie was silent for a long moment. Well, she said finally, that's very human of you. Making things complicated. Marcus couldn't help but smile. Yeah, that's what we do best. Marcus couldn't sleep. For 3 days after the assassination attempt, he had been thinking constantly about his situation. The wedding was 3 weeks away. 3 weeks until he would be permanently bound to an alien queen in a marriage he never intended. But the problem wasn't simple anymore. It wasn't just about escaping an awkward situation. Every day, he spent hours with Zaritha, learning about her culture and teaching her about his. Every day, he saw more of the person behind the crown, and every day, the guilt grew heavier. Sophie knocked on his door early in the morning. The team from Earth arrived. They want to meet with you. The diplomatic solution team consisted of 3 lawyers, 2 cultural experts, and 1 very stressed ambassador. They sat in Marcus's quarters, reviewing options on their databands. We could claim diplomatic immunity, one lawyer suggested. That would insult the entire Vextara Empire, the ambassador countered. We'd lose all trade agreements, possibly make an enemy of a civilization that's been spacefaring for 10,000 years. What if Marcus just went through with it? Another lawyer said. Marry her, wait a respectable time, then divorce quietly. The Vextara don't have divorce. Marriage is permanent until death. Everyone fell silent. The weight of the situation pressed down on them all. Finally, Marcus spoke. I have an idea. It's risky, but it might work. That afternoon, Marcus requested a private audience with Queen Zaratha. She met him in her personal chambers, a space filled with bioluminescent plants and comfortable furniture that seemed grown rather than built. You seem troubled, Marcus, she said, gesturing for him to sit. Please speak freely. Marcus took a deep breath. This was it. Zaretha, I need to tell you the complete truth. I need you to understand what happened from a human perspective. He explained everything, how tired he had been, how he had reached for impressive words without understanding their meaning in her culture. How on earth people didn't marry because of accidental words, but because of genuine feelings developed over time. Zaratha listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Marcus saw her compound eyes dim slightly, and he realized with surprise that he could now read her emotions. She was hurt. So you wish to leave, she said finally, her voice carefully controlled. You wish to break our engagement. I wish, Marcus said carefully, that we had met under different circumstances. I wish you had the choice that humans value so much. She stood and walked to the window overlooking her city. You have taught me much about human concepts these past weeks. Love, dating, freedom. They are beautiful ideas, Marcus, but they are not Vexthara ideas. Maybe they could be, Marcus said, standing to join her. Zaratha, I have a proposal. A real one this time. She turned to look at him, antennae raised in curiosity. Marry me, Marcus said, and she made a surprised clicking sound. But not yet. Give us 3 more months. Let me court you the human way. Let us choose each other, truly choose each other, without obligation or accident or law forcing us together. I do not understand, Zaritha said. You wish to delay the wedding? I wish to start over, Marcus explained. I want us to spend time together not as queen and accidental fiancé, but as 2 people getting to know each other. Go on dates, share meals, talk about our lives, our dreams, our fears. At the end of 3 months, if we both genuinely want to marry, then we proceed. If not, he paused. Then we find another solution together. The court will never accept this, Zaratha said, but Marcus could hear interest in her voice. Delaying a royal wedding is unheard of. Is there any law that allows it? Marcus asked. Any precedent? Zaratha was silent for a moment, thinking. Then her antennae perked up. There is the trial of worth. An ancient law, rarely used. It allows a queen to test her chosen mate to ensure he is worthy of her. It can last up to 1 full season. Perfect, Marcus said. Tell your court I must undergo the trial of worth. That way, we honor tradition while giving ourselves time. But Marcus, Zaretha said softly, what if at the end of 3 months, you still wish to leave? What then? Marcus met her gaze steadily. Then you will let me go, not because of law or politics, but because you choose to. Because that's what love means. Giving someone the freedom to leave, trusting them to stay. Zaretha reached out with one of her hands, hesitating just before touching his face. You would teach me to choose, even knowing I might choose to release you? Yes, Marcus said, because you deserve that choice. You've been a queen your entire life, doing what duty demands. Maybe it's time you got to be just Zaratha for a while. The queen was silent for a long time. Then, she made a decision that shocked her entire court. She announced the trial of worth, declaring that Marcus Chen must prove himself worthy through the human custom of courtship before the marriage could proceed. The conservative nobles were outraged. The younger courtiers were fascinated, and Marcus found himself in the strangest position of his life. Genuinely dating an alien queen who had the power to destroy planets but didn't know how to choose a restaurant. Their first date was a disaster. Marcus tried to recreate a human dinner experience, but Vexthara ate completely differently. Zaretha attempted to use a fork and nearly stabbed herself. The food was all wrong for her biology. They both ended up laughing at the absurdity of it all. This is terrible, Zaretha said, clicking with amusement. Welcome to human dating, Marcus replied with a grin. It's supposed to be awkward. Their second date was better. Marcus brought her human music, playing songs from his personal collection. Zaritha listened to a simple love song, and Marcus was startled to see moisture in her compound eyes. "You can cry?" he asked softly. "When something moves us deeply," she said. "This music, it speaks of choosing someone, of wanting them, not needing them." I have never heard anything so beautiful. Over the following weeks, they shared more. Marcus told her about his childhood, his dreams of exploring space, his fears of failing as a diplomat. Zaritha shared the burden of ruling, the loneliness of making decisions that affected billions, the weight of duty that had defined her entire existence. One evening in her private garden, Zaritha asked him a question. "Marcus, if you had never made that mistake, if we had met some other way, would you have been interested in me?" "Honestly, I don't know. You're so different from anyone I've ever known. But now that I do know you, yes, absolutely yes." Zaritha's antennae quivered with emotion. "I am afraid, Marcus." "Of what?" "That I am falling in love with you," she admitted. "And that at the end of our 3 months, you will leave anyway." Marcus took her hand, the chitinous texture now familiar and comforting. "Then we'll face that fear together." That's what choosing someone means. The courtship had become real. Marcus could no longer deny it to himself or anyone else. What had started as a diplomatic solution had transformed into something genuine and unexpected. 2 months into their trial period, Marcus found himself looking forward to every moment with Zaritha. She was brilliant, with a mind that could process complex political situations in seconds. She was funny, though. Her humor was so alien that it took Marcus weeks to understand when she was joking. And she was kind in ways that surprised him daily. One afternoon, Zaritha showed Marcus a place no outsider had ever seen. Her private sanctuary. It was a cavern beneath the palace, filled with plants that glowed in the darkness. The bioluminescent garden created patterns of light that shifted and danced like living art. "I come here when the weight of the crown becomes too heavy," she explained, her voice echoing softly. "Here, I am not a queen. I am simply me." Marcus stood in awe, watching the lights reflect in her compound eyes. "It's beautiful. Thank you for sharing this with me." "I have never shown anyone this place," Zaritha admitted. "Not my advisors, not my family. Only you." They sat together in comfortable silence, something that had become precious between them. Marcus had learned that Zaritha valued quiet moments as much as conversation. "Tell me something," Marcus said eventually. "If you could change one thing about being queen, what would it be?" "I would choose to have been born ordinary, to have had the freedom to make mistakes, to explore, to be foolish without affecting millions of lives. Like you, Marcus. You traveled through space because you wanted to." "I rule because I was born to rule. I envy your freedom." "But you're using that freedom now," Marcus pointed out. "You chose to give us this time. You chose to learn about human customs. That takes courage." "Perhaps," Zaritha said softly, "or perhaps I am simply selfish, wanting something for myself for the first time in my life." Marcus reached over and took one of her hands. The gesture had become natural between them. "That's not selfish. That's being alive." Their moment was interrupted by urgent footsteps. A guard appeared at the entrance, breathing heavily. "Your Majesty, Marcus Chen, you must come immediately. There is trouble. It's Lord Zentar and his faction. They're staging a coup. They claim the Queen has been weakened by human influence and is unfit to rule." "How many support them?" "About 30% of the noble houses," Sophie said. "They're demanding Zaritha step down." "Never," Zaritha said firmly. "This is my empire. I will not surrender it to traditionalists who fear change." They made their way to the throne room, which had become a battlefield of words and politics. Lord Zenthar stood at the center, a massive Vexthara with dark red armor and cold, calculating eyes. "Queen Zaritha," he announced loudly, "you have dishonored our traditions. You delay your royal wedding for human customs. You spend your time with an alien instead of governing. You have become weak." "I have become wise," Zaritha countered, her voice carrying authority. I have learned that strength comes from understanding, not isolation. You have learned nothing, Zenthar roared, and we will no longer follow a queen who has forgotten what it means to be Vexthara. His supporters moved forward, armed guards among them. Loyal guards moved to defend the queen, but Marcus could see they were outnumbered. This is madness, Marcus said to Sophie. We need to do something. What can we do? Sophie whispered. We're diplomats, not soldiers. But Marcus was already thinking. He had spent 2 months studying the palace, learning its layout, understanding Vexthara tactics and strategies. He had access to the palace systems through his diplomatic clearance. Sophie, can you access the environmental controls from your datapad? On my signal, kill all the lights in this room for exactly 10 seconds, then bring them back up. Marcus moved closer to Zaritha and whispered his plan. Her antennae twitched with understanding, and she gave a small nod. Lord Zenthar, Zaritha said loudly, you speak of tradition, but you forget one important fact. In our oldest traditions, a challenge to the queen must be answered with strength. Then show your strength, Zenthar demanded. I will, Zaritha said. Now, Marcus. Sophie activated the command. The throne room plunged into absolute darkness. Marcus heard confusion, shouting, movement. He counted the seconds, knowing Zaritha's loyal guards were moving into position based on the plan they had quickly formed. At exactly 10 seconds, the lights came back on. Zenthar and his key supporters found themselves surrounded by loyal guards, weapons pointed at them from every angle. The coup had been outmaneuvered in 10 seconds of darkness, but one rebel hadn't been captured. A figure in black armor burst toward Zaritha, weapon raised. Marcus didn't think. He threw himself forward, pushing Zaritha aside. Pain exploded across his shoulder as the weapon's energy struck him. Marcus fell hard. He heard Zaritha scream his name. Through blurring vision, he saw her move with terrifying speed, disarming the attacker with brutal efficiency. Then she was beside him, her hands pressing against his wound. Marcus, stay with me, she said urgently. Guards, medical team immediately. I'm okay, Marcus managed to say, though the pain was intense. Are you safe? You fool, Zaritha said, and Marcus could hear tears in her voice. You beautiful, foolish human. Why did you do that? Because, Marcus said, fighting to stay conscious. I choose you. I choose this. I choose us. The last thing he saw before darkness took him was Zaritha's face, her compound eyes shining with tears, and something else, something that looked remarkably like love. When Marcus woke in the medical chamber, bandaged but alive, he found Zaritha sitting beside his bed. She had been there for 3 days, refusing to leave even to address her court. You stayed, Marcus said weakly. Of course I stayed, Zaritha said. You took a weapon strike meant for me. You nearly died protecting me, even though you are not a warrior, even though you had no obligation. Marcus said, I love you, Zaritha. That's obligation enough. The queen went very still. You love me? Yes, Marcus said simply. I know I'm human and you're Vexthara. I know we're impossibly different. But yes, I love you. I think I have for a while now. Zaritha made a sound that was half laugh, half sob. Then I must tell you something, Marcus Chen. I have prepared documents for you. An annulment with full honors. You are free to return to Earth. I will not trap you here. Marcus stared at her. What? Why? Because you taught me what love means, Zaritha said softly. It means giving someone the freedom to choose, and I choose to free you. Marcus looked at the document Zaritha held in her hands. The official seal of the Vexthara Empire gleamed on the paper. His freedom, legally written and ready to be signed. You spent weeks preparing this, Marcus said quietly, understanding dawning on him. Yes, Zaritha admitted. Even while we courted, even while I fell in love with you, I prepared your escape. Because that is what you taught me, Marcus. True love means giving someone the choice to leave. Marcus pushed himself up in the medical bed, ignoring the pain in his shoulder. And you're willing to let me go? After everything? It is the hardest thing I have ever done, Zaritha said, her voice breaking slightly. But it is also the most important. You came to my world by accident. You never asked for any of this. You deserve to go home, to live the life you planned, free from obligations you never chose. What about you? Marcus asked. What happens to you after I leave? Zaratha's antennae drooped. I will rule alone, as I always expected to, but I will rule differently now. You have shown me that choice matters, that individuals have worth beyond their duties. I will work to change our society, to bring these ideas to my people. Your gift to me will live on, even if you do not stay. Marcus took the document from her hands and stared at it for a long moment. All around them, the medical chamber hummed quietly. Outside, he could hear the sounds of the palace returning to normal after the attempted coup. Life continued, indifferent to their personal crisis. Sophie told me something interesting, Marcus said finally. She said that making things complicated is what humans do best. Zaratha's compound eyes brightened with curiosity. I do not understand. Marcus smiled and very deliberately tore the document in half. Zaritha gasped, all four of her hands flying to her chest. Marcus, what are you doing? That document took weeks to prepare legally. I'm making a choice, Marcus said firmly. A real choice. Not because of an accident, not because of obligation, not because I'm trapped, but because I want to. He pushed himself out of the bed, standing on shaky legs. Zaratha moved to support him, and he took her hands in his. Zaritha, queen of the Vexthara Empire, I am asking you now, with full knowledge and complete freedom, will you marry me?
Marcus, you do not have to. I know I don't have to, Marcus interrupted. That's the point.
I'm choosing to. I'm choosing you. I'm choosing this complicated, impossible, beautiful thing we've built together. But your home, Zaritha protested weakly. Your people. Your life on Earth. Earth will always be my home, Marcus said. But home is also where you choose to be. And I choose to be here, with you, building something new. Besides, he added with a grin, someone needs to teach you how to use a fork properly. Zaritha made that clicking sound that Marcus now recognized as laughter, mixed with tears. You are impossible. You are the most frustrating, wonderful, impossible human I have ever met. Is that a yes? Marcus asked. Yes, Zaritha said, pulling him into an embrace that was careful of his injuries but full of emotion. Yes, Marcus Chen, I choose you too. It was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. A ceremony that blended human and Vexthara traditions into something entirely new. Marcus wore a suit from Earth, modified to accommodate Vexthara ceremonial additions. Zaritha wore her royal armor, polished to mirror brightness, with a human wedding veil that Sophie had helped design. The throne room was filled with beings from dozens of species. Human dignitaries sat beside Vexthara nobles. News crews from across the galaxy recorded the historic moment. When it came time for vows, Marcus spoke first. I stand here today not because of accident or obligation, but because of choice. I choose to love someone different from me. I choose to build bridges between worlds. I choose to prove that humanity's greatest strength is not our technology or our weapons, but our ability to see past differences and find connection. Zaratha's vows were equally powerful. I choose to change. I choose to grow. I choose to lead my people toward a future where tradition and progress walk hand in hand. And I choose Marcus Chen, who taught me that the strongest chains are the ones we forge ourselves through love. The ceremony concluded with both human and Vexthara rituals. When they were pronounced married, the crowd erupted in cheers, clicks, and various alien sounds of celebration. At the reception, Sophie approached Marcus with her datapad. Boss, you need to see this. She showed him messages flooding in from across the galaxy. Dozens of human-alien couples had come forward, inspired by Marcus and Zaratha's story. Relationships that had been hidden were now public. New connections were forming. You started something, Sophie said with a smile. You proved that humans and aliens can not only work together, but love each other. Marcus looked across the room at his wife. his wife, who was engaged in diplomatic conversation with 3 different species simultaneously. She caught his eye, and her antennae lifted in what he now knew was her smile. "It's not just about humans and aliens," Marcus said thoughtfully.